Before we pray, before we ask for a new answer from heaven, we need to look at something deeper. Are you waiting for God to do what He already told you to do? From the very beginning of creation, God set up a clear plan. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, it says, "And God blessed them and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and take charge of it." God didn't fill the earth again. He didn't plant again. He gave that job to people. That means there are things God has already talked about, and now it's up to us to do the next part. Many ask for a miracle, but they don't follow the instructions. They cry out for an answer, but they don't act on what has already been shown to them. They look for another sign when the first one wasn't even paid attention to. It's not a lack of belief that delays God's help. Many times, it's not obeying, or even worse, doing nothing disguised as being spiritual. In Exodus chapter 14, verse 15, when Moses desperately cries out in front of the Red Sea, God doesn't give him a new promise. He tells him something unexpected. "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the children of Israel to move forward." The cry was sincere, but it was no longer time to pray. It was time to move forward. There was already a word. There was already a promise. There was already a staff in Moses' hand. The only thing missing was obedience. And that's where many get stuck, waiting for God to do what they're supposed to do, waiting for Him to move the stone when you were told to move it. Waiting for Him to untie what you can loosen, waiting for Him to move what you are called to move. God doesn't do what's meant for people to do, because if He did, it would stop us from learning to obey, have faith, and grow up. Jesus said in the Gospel of Luke chapter 6, verse 46, "Why do you call me, Lord, Lord, and not do what I tell you?" The problem isn't in prayer, it's in obedience. It's in the lack of action. It's in the fear of moving forward. But heaven doesn't answer laments that ignore instructions. Some people pray for things to be fixed, but they don't say sorry. They ask for new chances, but they don't work on being better people. They want to get well, but they don't listen to advice, and they keep waiting without doing anything. Faith isn't just trusting, it's doing what God said. Obedience gets heaven going, and when you move, God's got your back. So, it's not that God doesn't want to do it, it's that He's already left it in your hands. It's not on His to-do list, it's up to you. Because there are things God won't do, simply because He already told you to do them yourself. There are times when the miracle is so close that the only thing keeping it from happening is an act of obedience. No more faith, no more prayer, no more praise. Just one step, one movement, a human action that makes room for the divine. In John chapter 11, we find one of Jesus' most amazing miracles, the resurrection of Lazarus. The story is very emotional. Jesus cries, people have doubts, Martha tries to make sense of it, Mary breaks down, and while everyone is waiting for something to happen, Jesus goes to the tomb and says something that changes everything. Take away the stone. Roll away the stone. That's what it says in the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verse 39. That's what many people don't want to do. Move what they've gotten used to leaving still. Face what they have buried. Bring to light what they have decided to hide. But Jesus doesn't bring back to life what you're not willing to show. He doesn't raise what you insist on leaving underground. And before saying, "Lazarus, come out," He first commands, "Take away the stone." God's power is here. Jesus wants to make things right, but the miracle won't happen until someone listens and acts. The stone stands for what you can move, what's up to you. And that's where many people get stuck. They pray, they cry, they wait, but they don't move the stone. They don't face their pride. They don't give up the habit. They don't cut off what's dirty. They don't forgive. They don't ask for forgiveness. They don't change their attitude. They want an empty tomb, but without touching the rock that covers it. In John chapter 11, verse 40, Jesus says, "Didn't I tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" But believing wasn't just an idea, it was connected to the action he had just asked for. If you believe, move the stone. If you believe, get moving, because faith without action is dead. And when they finally obey, when they roll away the stone, then Jesus looks up, prays to the Father, and calls Lazarus, "Lazarus, come forth." John 11:43. And the dead man comes out, alive, wrapped in grave clothes. And then Jesus says, "Unbind him and let him go." John 11:44. Again, Jesus doesn't do what a human can do. He didn't move the stone. He didn't untie the bandages. The supernatural belongs to God. The practical, that's up to you. And it's like, well, there are times when heaven is ready to act, but people haven't responded yet. Heaven doesn't stop because it lacks power, but because people don't obey. And just like that, God's plans can sometimes be put on hold because of people. The Bible tells us a story in Joshua chapter 7. The Israelites, led by Joshua, had just won a big battle at Jericho. God had given them a clear rule: don't take anything from the city for yourselves. But one man, Achan, didn't listen. He took some fancy clothes, silver and gold. Because of what Achan did, when the Israelites went to fight the next city, they lost badly. Many of their soldiers died. Joshua was really sad and asked God why this happened. God told him that someone had sinned and taken things that were set apart for God. God wouldn't help them until they dealt with the sin in their camp. This story shows us that one person's actions can affect everyone, and sometimes God waits for us to fix things before his plans can move forward. There was something to fix, something to clean, something to correct. The problem wasn't the enemy's strength, but the inner disorder, and God wouldn't give them victory until they faced what was wrong. Today, many ask God to restore, lift up, heal, and promote, but the truth is, they're not willing to move the stone. They don't want to admit what's holding them back. They also don't want to obey the voice that leads them to an uncomfortable step. God doesn't act based on feelings, but rather on principles. And, well, one of those principles is this: instruction, then obedience, and then a miracle. That's the biblical sequence. You know, there's no miracle without prior obedience. From Abraham to the apostles, God gives a word and then waits for an action. By faith, Abraham obeyed, as Hebrews chapter 11 verse 8 tells us, and Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, just as it is written in Exodus chapter 14 verse 21, and Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water, according to Matthew chapter 14 verse 29. They didn't just sit around waiting for things to happen. They responded, and, well, that response made the impossible happen. Because God keeps saying, move the stone, trust and forgive, repent and change, obey and walk. It's not that God doesn't want to do a miracle. It's that he's already spoken, he's already given his word. Now, what's next? That's up to you. There's a moment in every spiritual journey when God has already spoken, the instructions have already been given, the stone has already been moved, and what comes next is trusting that He will do what you cannot. But first, you have to do what you can. The Bible is full of scenes where heaven answers, after people obey, not before, not during, after. Because obedience is not just a test of faith, it's the stage where God shows His power. In 2 Kings chapter 4, a widow comes to Elisha. She's in debt. Her sons are about to be taken as slaves. She cries out for help, but the prophet's answer isn't to give her money, it's an instruction. What do you have at home? That's what Elisha asks her, according to 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 2. She answers, nothing, except a jar of oil. And that jar, which seemed so small, became the starting point for her miracle. Elisha gives her a command, go and ask all your neighbors for empty jars, not just a few, 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 3. And then, go in and shut the door upon you and your sons, and pour into all those vessels, and when one is full, set it aside. Verse 4. The miracle didn't happen until she obeyed, until she acted, until she did her part. The oil didn't fall from the sky, it didn't magically appear, it flowed as she poured what she had. God multiplied, but she had to pour. God provided, but she had to find vessels. God acted, but not without her participation. And that's still true today. Many want to see provision, but they don't move. They want to see healing, but they don't take steps. They want to see restoration, but they don't do what God has already asked. In Matthew chapter 14, verse 17, when Jesus feeds the 5,000, the disciples tell him, we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish here. And Jesus answers, bring them here to me. Verse 18. The miracle started with what they already had. Jesus didn't multiply what wasn't given to him. But when they put the little they had in his hands, it was more than enough. And here's a truth that changes everything. God doesn't need you to have a lot. He just needs you to give him what you have. And to do that, you need to trust. Many people delay their obedience because they're waiting for guarantees, but God doesn't operate on human terms. He operates on faith. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6, we read, but without faith it is impossible to please God, for it is necessary that he who comes to God believe that he exists. Faith pleases God. Faith activates the invisible. Faith tells heaven, I'm ready to walk with you, even if I don't see the whole path. And, well, faith that pleases God is a faith that obeys without having all the details. It's the faith of Noah, who built an ark without ever having seen rain. It's the faith of Abraham, who left without knowing where he was going. It's the faith of Peter, who jumped into the sea without thinking about the logic of the wind or the waves. God never asked you to understand everything, just to trust, just to respond, just to believe he'll do the impossible when you do what's possible. In James chapter 2, verse 17, we are reminded that faith, if it doesn't have works, is dead in itself. It's not enough to say you believe, you have to show it, and the way you show your faith is through obedience. So, there are times when God won't speak anymore. He's already given the order, He's already shown the way, and now what He expects is for you to act. And when you do it, He takes care of the rest. When Peter obeyed and cast the net, even though he had fished all night without luck, a miracle happened. "Master, we've worked all night and caught nothing, but because you say so, I will cast the net." Luke chapter 5, verse 5. And the nets were breaking from so many fish. It wasn't logic, it wasn't strategy, it was obedience. When you do your part, even if it seems small, even if it seems pointless, even if your knees are shaking, God does His, and what He does always goes beyond what you imagined. Because there are some things only heaven can make happen, but there are many others just waiting for you to simply make a move.